The sun sets somewhere far in ancient Mesopotamia. We look down upon it from the top of a mountain, and in the distance we see a city whose name is lost in antiquity. It sits confidently and comfortably in the hands of both men and their undead lords and masters, whom reveal themselves only upon dusk. Somewhere in the city, torches move quickly, shouts ring out in an unfamiliar tongue. We see a figure scale down the high walls of the city from a rope. And he runs from the base of the wall toward us, toward the mountain we look down from. And soon after, more cries and torch lights emanating from the tops of the wall. Eventually, the large double doors of the gates open wide, and more than a dozen men begin to scramble outside of the city and begin pursuit. Yet we see this lone man cross the sands, climb up the red sandstone of the cliffs as he is chased by these men in the dark. He sweats and struggles as he climbs, cutting his hands on the rocks, leaving a trail of blood. He passes us from our fixed vantage point, and we see him. It's a simple-looking man clad in sandals, a dirty white loincloth, white head wrap and cloth wrappings around his chest, with a brand on his left tricep. This brand. He is visible only briefly before he passes us. A few minutes go by. We see his pursuers eventually come close enough to view as well. Men in similar dress, wearing the same symbol, holding crude curved blades. They too pass us, and the sounds of their steps on the ground behind us eventually fade, as we are left with the same original view of this ancient city. A light in the sky grows, the color changes, and we see the sun rise and fall again. Years pass, tens of years, then hundreds, a millennium and longer. The world forgets that night. It forgets that city. It forgets that man and his story. And thousands of miles away, across waters, forests, we find ourselves at a modestly sized, disused tavern just outside of nascent London in England. A burgeoning city whose growth is rapidly outpacing its size, where visitors are just beginning to arrive for a conclave. The tavern is 2 stories tall, though it's clearly been out of service for some time as the wood is old and chipping. The second level is open to the first and acts more as a large loft looking down, accessible by some rickety stairs. The first level is divided by a wall into 2 sides, quite wide and once providing a great many tables and chairs still sit idly within it. Then there's even a counter and pantry where a kitchen once existed, tavern keeper used to greet guests. Straw lines the floor, which is common for most dwellings in this area. And a young but finely dressed man with a mildly annoyed look on his perfectly hairless face stands at the door, it open, leaning against the doorway, waiting. Meanwhile, already in the tavern, is a lovely young woman by the name of Deborah. Cat, would you like to give us a description of Deborah and how she's idling within the tavern? Patrick, you still around?
I'm sorry, I was muted. In a tavern, she'll probably be dressed a bit more soberly. The appearance is there though, and she will have a headcloth like that. She will sit at a table quietly, looking around, observing people. She will be keeping to herself.
Oh, I should say that the tavern is entirely empty except for you and this man at the doorway.
I'm sorry.
There are two older, seems like older people just outside. They look like they're also waiting, but the inside is empty.
It's kind of tricky to describe since I don't know why I am here. I mean, it's hard to figure out what her intent is if I don't know why I'm here.
You don't have to tell us your intent, just physical description of what she's doing in the moment while she idles.
She is about 5'6". A slender, well-coordinated build. Not quite frail, but certainly you got the feeling that she's hardly, a physical threat to anyone. A peaceful demeanor by and large. When her eyes drift over someone, there will be a look of intent, as if she is always looking at people as if, trying to estimate how these people fit in some kind of scheme or in some kind of pattern. She's trying to understand her environment, basically.
Okay.
She is not very extravagant or outgoing when she's among strangers in a group. When it's one-on-one or one-on-two, she will open up a lot more and become quite expressive.
Right. So, as Deborah sits expectantly, waiting, we see the first to arrive now at this tavern. A young-looking man in a dark doublet and pants with a forest green cloak and a devilishly good-looking face. It is this individual. He is accompanied by none other than Tito Vega. Would you like to give a description of Tito Vega?
I don't see the picture, if you showed any.
Oh no, try again. Oh, I see. There we go.
That is good looking.
And I bet nobody saw Christopher Gacy, did they?
I did not know.
So this man stands waiting at the doorway. He came with you, Deborah, to this tavern.
Okay.
Inviting you to hear what the elder Simon had to say and meet some of the other cainites in town. So, Tito is approaching the tavern with this individual, this young man. Why don't you give a description of him as he comes across the man at the door of this tavern?
Sure. You looked at Tito, you would notice he is a brown-haired man with a foreign air about him. He is of average height, with a lean build. His current dress for this evening would be a white habit covered by a black cloak. If you looked into his eyes, you would notice something odd about them, perhaps a certain darkness to them.
A white habit, like a hospitalier?
Yep.
So as you approach this man at the door who seems to be blocking the entrance, he kind of gives you a scowl. About time.
And this is who's speaking?
This is Christopher Gacy, the man at the door, who you would probably recognize.
Yes, about time indeed.
Gavin kind of rolls his eyes, doesn't reply. Eventually Christopher steps aside and lets Gavin walk in.
Thank you for welcoming us. It's most gracious.
I don't think I've properly met you. Young man Gavin catches your eye, Deborah, as he walks in.
She smiles. She will give a small courtesy and bow her head. She says, I go by the name of Deborah Bint Eli, if you wish. My original name is lost in the sands of time, I'm afraid. But this will do.
Deborah Bintelli. Well, maybe after this, you and I can get to know each other more personally. He gives you a grin.
She smiles back, but there is something distant in the smile.
Meanwhile, outside, shortly after the entrance of Tito and Gavin, are two individuals who show up not together, just around the same time. The first being an individual who just immediately comes across as arrogant. He's a good-looking blonde young man, and he seems to be aware of how attractive he is. Those who know Preston would recognize him for his rudeness to those who cannot do him any favors. Christopher Gacy doesn't say anything, doesn't bother to speak to this man as he lets him walk in, and very soon after, John Talbot shows up right behind him. What's John look like as he approaches this nasally voiced individual at the door?
John is not dressed nearly as fine as he appears in this picture. This was taken as a special event type of thing. Dressed still carries an air of nobility about himself and doesn't look again nearly as dour as this picture portrays him. However, he's got a lot on his mind, so he's looks a bit distracted, though he makes every effort to provide people the attention they require when they require it. So as you approach this person in the doorway, his gaze will lock directly on that person, shoulders will square towards them, that person will get all of the attention needs. And I'm referencing who, this Gacy? Is that the person in the doorway?
Christopher Gacy, that's right.
Yes. Out of character question, is there anything, like, if I'm aware of who this person is or any status they have, then that would be useful. Otherwise, is it obvious that they're a common or low base-born person?
Christopher Gacy, you would know, commands a great deal of respect, wealth, and power He's the keeper of Elysium, and his responsibility is to moderate all lectures and meetings at this private Elysium that you're entering. He has significant clout in the city of London.
Perfect. Then Christopher would open as he approaches. As soon as he notices Gase in the doorway, he would approach confidently, give a respectful bow, and state, "We must be doing important business tonight to be greeted personally by so august a personage. How goes your nights, Mr. Sir Gacy?" I'm assuming a Sir honorific is appropriate.
He kind of smiles at the respect you give him. "Well, I wish I could say it was worth my time. I'm unfortunately bound by duty. I do not believe this is worthy of our time. Simon demanded a meeting, this conclave. It's my responsibility to look after this. Unfortunately, the others are starting to gather inside."
Well, a dedication to duty is commendable. I will move aside to allow you to be about your business. A good night to you, sir.
I'll see you inside, John. And you note he does not give you the deference.
Yes, I did definitely note that.
Alright. And not long after that, two men come as a pair together. One wearing dark brown robes, much like a monk, coming across as subtle, even unassuming. Most would be familiar with this man, Theo Adams of the Tremere, an individual who treads lightly in all conversations and speaks with a soft and thoughtful voice most of the time. With him is an individual almost no one has ever seen before tonight, by the name of Gelfred the Ipswich. Give us a description of Gelfred as he approaches Christopher Gacy at the door.
Those who look at Galford immediately see that he is quiet and vaguely menacing, and also lean as a whipcord. Appears to be an Englishman in his early 30s with a closely shaven head. He's got a faint 5 o'clock shadow and an intense, penetrating gaze. He's typically seen wearing a long leather cloak over sweeping clothes of wool and hide, like you see here in his picture. In Galfred, he tends to listen more than he speaks, and yet, walking at Theo's side, he remains a somewhat formidable presence in the way he watches and waits at the events around him.
Christopher looks perplexed as the two of you approach. He looks to Theo and then to you. I don't recognize this one. Theo, is this one of yours? Yes. He is accompanying me this night.
Galfred bows his head, just slightly, tilting forward at the neck.
Well, in you go. Theo nods quietly and enters.
Galfred follows by, his cloak sweeping around his boots as he steps inside.
After you, not long after, is an older man approaching the tavern alone. Mid-40s, very plain looking, with a peasant outfit. It's clean and simple, but the man's black, greasy hair looks awry. He would definitely be recognized by nearly everyone as Simon, the Malkavian elder, calling this meeting. And Christopher does not say anything. He lets Simon pass and grows uncomfortably quiet as he does. Simon enters the tavern, seeing the group starting to form. You see a look of concern on his face as he moves about the tavern, looking at the furniture and all the arrangements of random articles that seem to have been left here from the last time it was used. He starts sorting whatever he can by size, almost in an obsessive way. He says nothing to anyone. He does not introduce himself. He immediately sets the task of organizing. A good amount of time passes before our next guests arrive, but they eventually do. One man, looking very simple, very common, a brunette in the plainest clothes available. He walks up to Christopher Gacy. He's accompanied by an individual that has come to be known as Grey Rat. What does Grey Rat appear to anyone else as right now?
Grey Rat walks calmly up to the steps to greet Christopher Gacy. He is donned in a very long and tattered black shroud with a very stylized leper's mask covering his face. And his walk is very unusual, almost sways or as if he's having trouble walking. You can't tell which, with his robes clearly masking the majority of his body, but he walks very confidently and very calmly up towards Christopher Gacy and does a slight nod.
Christopher looks around, past you and to the sides, looking apparently for anyone else who may have seen you enter. But this tavern you all have arrived to is it's far enough away from the city of London and far away from most other homes. It's essentially almost a lone farmhouse. It's so isolated. For anyone to approach, they would be seen far away and very soon, very quickly. And most you get the impression that that's part of why this place was picked for its isolation and discretion. It is very much alone in this field. Christopher does not bother to say anything to either of you as well, as this very plain-looking man walks in with you. And shortly after, there are the first women to arrive, I should say. A pair of them. Looks maybe late teens, early 20s, but she has a fierce look about her. She looks to be dressed more for efficiency and for work or practicality than anything else. She's not wearing a dress. Her sunset red hair would draw attention if there were people here to draw attention to. With her, last and least in size, is a shrimp of a girl, truly a child of perhaps 10 or 11, apparently. And she also has red hair, in pigtails, no less. Her little legs carry her in towards the tavern, confidently. She wears a genuine scowl, apparently in an effort to appear tough, but the effect is more adorable than terrifying. "Step aside, Gacy." This woman, the adult, speaks up to Christopher. "Such a temper, you rabble, always. Ah, I see you brought the little wolf, Willow. Does she really belong here?" "It's none of my business, and it's none of yours. She can make her own decisions. Right, Willow?" "That's right." Christopher says nothing more, just waves his hands and lets them in. And finally, it appears that the last guests have arrived, for Gacy has closed the door, and he takes a seat nearby, watching Simon arrange the last of the cups that he can find in the room. And going to transition. So, once Simon realizes that the door is closed and Christopher is no longer tending to new people, he seems to alert himself to the others as if he's just now realizing there are a dozen people in the room with him. And he starts to move you all into position, physically trying to push you along. He's ordering the dozen of you into a line, literally a row. Is anyone resisting this? Is anyone not letting him touch them or push him, get pushed by him?
Galford is pliant to this man's arranging, although he stares at him the entire time.
Does he just start pushing, or does he seem to kind of give a hand signal or a nudge or some kind of other indication that we need to move in that direction before he starts actually pushing?
He doesn't give any direction. He immediately begins taking people by the hand and gently guiding them as if a father figure guiding someone like a child to where they should be.
Okay, in that case, Deborah will be compliant.
There's nothing aggressive or violent about this. It seems.
Okay.
It just seems odd.
Well, sure.
Yes, Tito will comply.
How's John handling this?
This is Simon. This is Simon, right?
You recognize him as Simon, the one who called the meeting.
I just missed that part. Yeah, I would accompany him, and just politeness. Politeness personified.
Okay. And Grey Rat?
Grey Rat seems to accompany the man wherever he leads. He seems to do it a bit slower than other people would, as he takes his time when he moves. But he will follow him.
If I can add a small detail, once Deborah has a feeling for what it is that the man wants, she will start moving in that direction ahead of his prodding and signaling. She'll try and add a bit of grace so it doesn't look like the man needs to force everything.
And once he sees that you've got the idea and you're going in the right direction, he lets go, seeing that you've ordered yourself correctly. Eventually, one way or another, he does get everyone into a line that he seems settled with, and you realize immediately he has ordered you from tallest to shortest. That is the only apparent order he put upon you all. And at this, he backs away so that he faces the line of you. "Oh, yes, well, then, as it were, I should begin." He takes another pause, looking around at all of you. I met a man 2 nights ago in the gutter. He was pale and ill. A cainite had had his way with him and left little but a dried husk behind. That and some kind of rotting disease. He pauses again as if his voice might break at any moment. His flesh was deteriorating, but not as lepers do. A small bite on his neck was oozing, pustulant and odorous. Licked clean, and yet it still bore the disease of wounds. The cainite left something behind. At this, you hear a couple grumbles and sighs of general discontent with this news. You hear the brash voice of the woman who walked in, the adult woman, whom most of you would recognize as Annie, the Bruja, and she abruptly barks in. So this special meeting was about a plague bearer. That's it. That's what you were making a big fuss about. He'll be found, he'll be dealt with, done and done. Just like this meeting. And she quickly turns to dart for the door before the old voice of Simon calls out, "That's not the only danger this city faces." And just at the door, Annie stops, clearly agitated, and reluctantly turns to return to her place in line, looking very annoyed. I reached out and touched this man. I witnessed a future unfold. A black claw stretches out across Europa, and then drags its nails as it retracts. It leaves a shadow over the land in its wake. I see a figure standing atop the Tower of the Damned as it desiccates and rots. The man, his form twists and corrupts until it is unrecognizably warped. The author of our decay. But where have I seen him before? He pauses again, as if he's watching it happen in front of him. And this goes on for about a minute. And finally, when the others realize that he seems to be done, an argument erupts all at once, all around you, all talking over each other, at each other, pointing fingers, waving hands. You hear one of these voices, the tiny, raspy voice who walked in. "I've seen plenty of black claws. Nothing we haven't survived before." And again, you can tell the attempt at defiance in her voice. It just breaks under the quivering fear she fails to hide. You hear Theo speak up. "Sounds like a dark ritual of great power. Do not dismiss it so quickly, outlaw." Preston, go ahead.
With a soft voice, Deborah will say, "Not all plagues are equal, I would assume. If it were something insignificant, would one of the seers have seen it? If an elder, like Master Simon, gets a vision like this, and he does not get these presumably of each disease and illness, it seems important enough to pay attention."
Willow, the child, looks up at you, and her fear grows. I would wager our magisters here knows something about shadows. Perhaps your kind are responsible for this, Gavin. Hear Preston chime in. No good leader relies on scapegoat, Preston. Do not look to us for answers. This kind of silly wordplay is beneath the sombra. You're awfully quiet, Cypress. What do the priors know of these threats to our city? Disease isn't new. Plague bearers come and go. But if there was some kind of hand carving through Europe, I'd think we'd know about it. How is everyone else reacting to this discussion?
Tito is taking in the discussion, listening to everyone try to discern the symbology behind the vision.
They blame us for everything, do they not, Tito? You hear Gavin speak to you.
Oh, sorry, what was that?
They blame us for everything, do they not, Tito?
Yes, they blame what they do not know.
When there seems to be a quiet and everyone has had their initial say, Deborah will try and address Master Simon if he doesn't seem to be too distracted.
Oh, he's very distracted. He is completely lost in thought, ignoring everyone else.
In that case, she will kind of say it out in the open. Again, not very loud. She's not trying to, draw attention to herself. Just kind of put something out there. She'll say, I wonder whether there is an intent in this men spreading the disease. All kinds of afflictions and accidents happen, but not all of them are by the will of the person who is the bringer of it.
Still seems like a giant waste of time to me. You hear Annie respond to you.
Well, perhaps, but a waste of time is only one in which nothing is accomplished. It seems to me it's just clear that we are all here, presumably sent by somebody who thought we ought to be the ones sent to resolve whatever situation came up, and it seems the situation that came up is there is a plague bearer loose in the city, and since we all want to continue eating and continue in our various unlives, we should probably set about seeing how we're going to resolve the situation.
It's hard for something to be a waste of time when you have all the knights in the world. I think we can spare a few to try and solve this.
I would agree. So who is on board for trying to uncover Simon's plague bearer and set about finding out if this is actually a problem and dealing with it?
Oh, just like Ventru, take leadership immediately without any plan.
By all means, if you have one, share it.
He seems to get caught up with bickering with Annie, and you realize that most of the others have returned to bickering, accusations being thrown, voices being raised. No one seems that interested in actually solving this problem or coming up with a solution right now. And at this point, I'd like everyone to send me a private perception alertness, difficulty 6, as something else develops.
It's /GM roll, correct?
If
Just
you
GR/GR.
If you just click the some of you may not have the macros I've put in, but in the settings there are macros. and one of them should be ST dice. If you click in bar, it should show up.
Let's see, where are they?
I do not have access to the ST dice.
Do I get to re-roll the second one again? Is it like complete exploding?
If I click on in bar, the only thing I see is public dice, and there's not actually any macros listed.
Make sure that the macros are visible to everyone in the room. When you pull up the macro, you can actually scroll down and control who sees them.
Yep.
In the meantime, I will just give you a manual roll.
It's just /GR space and then do the roll like the normal stuff.
How do I do Will the Darkness die rolling?
So it'd
Is
be
it-
number of dice in your pool, and then it's D10. They're 10-sided dice, so X number of dice, X number D10, and then greater than
Okay.
symbol for the difficulty, which is 6, and then include an F1 at the end because a 1 is a failure.
Got it. Thank you.
I think now would be a good time to make sure if we can get the macros figured out. That would simplify things. So, Michael, you said I can change who sees the macro buttons?
Yeah, you just go to the cogwheel under macros at the top, and then you click the macro. You pull up each one, and then at the resulting tab that comes up, you can scroll down and control who sees each macro.
Aha. That is what I did not do. Alright, I'm adding them all now, so these should become visible to everyone.
They are.
That's the secret. Thank you, Michael.
+1 experience.
Is there a way to look at these and like see what they do so we know how to use them?
Yeah, let me get all of them out, and I'll give a quick rundown. So ST dice is just any roll that's going to go straight to me. Public dice is anything physical or social that other people could conceivably see you do and succeed at or fail at. Soak damage, same thing. If you're rolling for just soak or damage. 10 again, self-explanatory. The blood strength through blood heal, those are all just pure number inputs. So if you can spend 2 blood and you want to spend it on dex, and you click blood dex 2, it just sends me a PM that says 2 to dexterity. It's a simple way of communicating to me privately how you're spending your blood, and in what capacity. Cool. That's exactly the kind of thing I'd like to work out in the first session. And I will relay what all you noticed or did not notice.
And I'm sorry, what was the roll again?
Just perception alertness, difficulty 6. Did I get a roll from Pat? Not
Yeah,
yet.
I sent one.
Oh, yep, you did. Oh. Okay. That's who I missed. So many PMs. I think I got everyone. So yeah, the bickering continues, and some of you notice this development. Actually,
Am I correct that it was Christopher that escorted here, but that it was Simon that had called the meeting?
one sec. Simon called the meeting. You were escorted here by Christopher Gacy.
What I was trying to say is, who is essentially in charge of the meeting? Whom would I address if I want to, bring up a point of order or something else, official?
You've never been to one of these before.
Can I make a guess?
Yep, you can make a guess, sure. It seems like everyone's still arguing. No one else seems to be, paying attention.
Okay, I'll go find Christopher.
Christopher seems like he's yelling at, it looks like he's yelling at Cypress about something.
She will walk up to him and put a hand on his arm.
What is it? What do you want?
I am sorry, but it seems there is a light outside far too bright for the night. I figured this might be a danger.
What are you talking about? He looks towards where it looks like now Tito is by the window, and I should give a better description of the window. It's a boarded up window where there's like a wooden latch, so really you cannot see what is outside precisely. It's obfuscated. It's just its small amount of light can pass through the borders. But it's closed. It would be very, very difficult to actually make out what was out there unless you were truly keen on perception. Theo, feeling your nudge, Galfred looks to the window, and his eyes, his eyebrows furrow, and he looks back at you, confused. What is out there?
Galfred subtly shrugs, although he keeps his gaze on the window.
And then splitting the room from his side of where he is standing, the shadowy figured cloaked man with the iron mask quickly shouts out, "Torches."
And at this, the bickering stops as the very mention of the word has caught everyone's attention. And most of them are looking at you, Grey Rat. What torches? What are you talking about?
The head of Grey Rat slowly shifts and turns to the side. The dark and cold metallic stare from his mask. The light is torches.
Finally, you see that the shrimp of a girl, Willow, has kind of brushed past everyone and just opened the wooden window to see for herself because she was too short to see anything. And now this is visible to everyone who was not paying attention. A line of torches illuminating sickles, scythes, pitchforks, axes, swords, all being wielded by a huge mob of townspeople who have completely surrounded this tavern as far as the eye can see. And as soon as she opens this, you hear a distant cry, "There's one right there!" And immediately, Willow gets pelted by a huge stone and it sends her tumbling back onto the ground. What? They're everywhere. What do we do? At this point, you see.
Is there are there any other exits to this building besides the front door?
There are not. You see Preston Price up on the second level, overlooking the first, apparently looking out a back window. He calls out, "We've been betrayed. They're all around us." "This is your doing, Gacy. You sent your damn ghouls to get them." "You rabble are so dense. Why would I do that if I'm still in the tavern?"
We don't have time for bickering. We need to prepare ourselves. Once everyone is ready, in a few moments, we need to make a break as one, or there's not a chance that all of us will survive.
I think he's right. Let's not try and waste time on fighting. Even if we are on the right in fighting, it still would serve no purpose. It's better to make a way out of here and disperse.
John is going to look around. Is there any other window, like anything else that can be made into an exit? Like if this is a loner, beat-up, ramshackle building, there must be some section or window or something that we could punch out instead of having to go right out the front door.
There are other windows, but as you look around, now that you're primed to it, a similar glow from the other windows is shining.
Yes. Yep. I mean, it's not. He's on the second story. There's a window back there, right? That he's looking out?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, that's where I'm going. That's what I'm thinking. Alright, then John is now speaking. I propose that once we have made ready, the fastest go first, but we all jump out this back window out of the second story. Perhaps they will not expect something, that kind of an egress route, and we make a break as fast as we can towards the city, punch through whoever gets in your way. As soon as we get clear, we can regroup. Let's call it... Are we in English units? A mile?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, for all of your effort, almost none of the other group is listening. Willow is running around back and forth nervously. Theo seems to be pacing the perimeter. So is Gavin.
Alright, can I do a, leadership plus charisma and just yell at people to shut the fuck... silence! Listen!
Yeah, go for charisma, leadership. Difficulty's gonna be 8. Everyone's pretty panicked.
Deborah will actually walk up to you and in a kind of rapid and urgent voice softly say to you, "Use the gifts of the blood, or maybe our savior here. We need their attention."
6, 7, 8. What difficulty you say?
8.
Wow, that is spectacular.
Yep.
I could roll some more if you want to do the 10 agains.
Unfortunately, the ones would cancel out the exploding 10s,
Oh, okay.
but
Yep.
2 is enough. Gavin and Theo stop to look at what you've said. They stop
Okay.
pacing and they're listening.
In the moment that they're listening, prepare yourselves now. Did you say, is Annie still not listening?
No, Annie's upstairs with... Well, actually, no, Annie's downstairs, actually, yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, all right. I just need a name, like, of the people who reacted. Somebody who's listening.
Yeah, Theo's listening.
Okay. Well, he's a Tremere, though. Like, he's not going to be, like, the front line dude. Anyone else?
You've got Gavin and Theo's attention. They're on the...
All right, we'll take Gavin then. I don't
Okay.
know who he is or what about him, but Gavin, Sir Malric, position yourself by the window. When I give the signal, we're all going to go. Everyone, prepare yourselves. On a 5 count, we're bolting, and then I need a name of a place in London that everybody would know that we could probably go meet up or report, whatever.
You're interrupted as soon as you finish that. This is madness. Will not listen to Ventru. Will see us all die to save yourself. And he runs upstairs looking for a better plan.
Good for him. A name of a building that we would all know in London. I don't know one. Like, Reek doesn't know one. Talbot might.
Most recognizable buildings are probably churches. I'm not sure how good of an idea that is for most
Yeah,
people.
it's not even. It's more like amongst kindred here, like of the people that live in London. Where's a place that we can probably go to that isn't going to get us killed on sight necessarily, where we could like meet up.
Pop Lolly's is probably the most central.
All right, Pop Lollies. Everybody go bolt as straight as fast as you can to Pop Lollies. Bust the lines on a 5 count.
Theo looks receptive, but unfortunately, as soon as you finish this last phrase, this plan, you already hear the banging and pounding on the door. While you were discussing and trying to get everyone's attention and laying out this idea, apparently they've made it up to the door. They were not waiting.
That's great. We're going out the back window anyway, so...
Everyone, I think I can get away from them. I will hold them up. Mind you, you see a frail, relatively short, attractive woman on her own just softly say, "You go. I'll deal with this. I'll do my best. Save yourself. Save each other."
The door bursts open and immediately begins to flood with townspeople. And they are overwhelming in number. They literally just flood the building in all areas. The other cainite guests that were with you, even Theo, who was receptive to this plan, ends up somewhere in the other side of the wall in the back room. Everyone seems to get sectioned off and cornered. Many of the cainites get trapped upstairs, and a huge melee ensues as the cainites begin battling for their own survival. And the 5 of you happen to be in approximately the same area as this flood of angry mob villagers closes in around you, the 5 of you. There's 7 immediately in front of you, wielding many of the weapons you saw outside. So go ahead and roll your dex wits. Roll your initiative plus dex wits.
Is that a public roll?
Yep, that's public roll.
Yeah, it's just 1d10 plus your dex wits.
let me get these guys organized.
Tito probably needs to add a few numbers to those dice. I'm gonna assume his dex plus wits is not 0.
Oh. Yeah, I come up with 14.
Oh, that last guy got a really good initiative.
Mine's better.
Okay. Got Grey Rat. Oh yeah. Tito, what was your actual...
14.
Your action initiative was 14?
Mm-hmm.
Oops. And there's John. I think that's... Okay. Let's see if I can order it. There we go. Why is it not going in order? I can do it myself.
There should be a sort button.
There we go. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Meaning,
So, you've got these men surrounding you, and John, you are fastest to react to them. So you can tell me what you want to do, or you can ask and see what they're going to do, and it's up to you.
I would like to know what everybody else is doing.
Okay. It looks like most of them are squaring off individually, so this saber man too, one of these guys with the saber in his hand is coming directly at you. Otherwise, all of the other four cainites by you are being attacked by others. And it looks like Deborah is going to be attacked by 2 people.
Alright, then I will... Can I attack this guy and then use the rest of my move to put myself between Deborah and at least one of her assailants?
You can move up to a distance and then take an action. It's going to be tougher to spend your time in that attack and then move somewhere.
Alright, then I'll just dispatch the guy in front of me to start then.
Okay, this guy with the saber man too.
Whoever's on me, yeah.
Yeah, that's the guy. He looks like he's coming straight at you with the saber raised. He's a plain-looking man, but he clearly has a look of fear and anger, a combination of hatred, a lot of visceral emotions, as he just charges at you with this saber raised. So what do you want to do to this guy? So you have the initiative.
Just a body blow with a sword.
Okay.
I've got my sword.
Okay. Go for Dex melee, difficulty 6.
Okay. 6, 7, 1. There you go. Damage.
Yep. Go ahead and roll your damage.
So my impressive rolling.
What's that?
I just said that was some impressive rolling there.
Oh yeah, that was a good hit on this poor man. He does not know what he's getting himself into. Oh man. So this is just a regular guy, and he's got no armor. He cannot soak any lethal. You immediately run this guy through. Describe to us how you kill this man with one blow of
So
your
he's
sword.
coming at me with a sword raised high, and I see that, and I don't have time for a stab because I need to defend this female who's being accosted, one of my Plus 2 opponents. So with his sword raised high, I'm going to undercut below him and do a wicked slash as hard as I can into his belly, mostly trying to just maintain momentum so I can keep moving. And I just get a good hit, manage to practically cut him right in half, which is exactly what I'm going for.
Okay, and yeah, you cleave through him like butter. The blade passes through his stomach, past his spine, severing the skeleton completely, and he just falls into a bloody lump, 2 pieces of a man who was just about to slash at you. So he is immediately gone, which means the next person is going to be Tito.
Can I request any appropriate fright checks for anybody who might have just saw that? And our assailants.
The people behind him, a lot of the mob behind him that was maybe going to join this is definitely leaving. The others were already, they have already got their eyes on their targets. They didn't even see this man get cut in half in less than 3 seconds. But Tito has the next move.
Okay. What is Clubman doing?
Clubman is he looks like he's charging Galfred.
Okay. Tito will just give Clubman a good punch to the head.
Okay. Go ahead and do a Dex brawl. I believe aim to the head is going to be at a difficulty of 8. Well, I believe it's strength plus 2.
Okay.
And lethal, isn't it?
Yeah. Yep.
Let me get everything out. Difficulty 8, you said?
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, as you, in your eager attempt to go for this attack, you put a lot of strength into this. You can feel that you have the power to take this man down, but it's more than you realize you're capable of controlling, and you go past him and topple to the floor. You'll have to spend a turn getting up. So powerful was your attempt to bring this guy down. So you are on the floor as you swing past this man. So Galfred, you saw that This man to your left, John, cleaved a man clean in half. You see that another man, this man named Tito, he fell on the floor trying to strike this individual coming at you with a club. You realize this man's coming at you with a club.
All right. Galfred is going to quickly scan the room in the second or so before this club man starts charging at him. What do I see happening in the room around me?
You see that behind you, or rather behind the villagers attacking you, so further in front of you, it looks like you see a much bigger mob surrounding, presumably, cainites. You can't actually make out who it is past the crowds, and even more on the first level. The room is just so thick with bodies and people.
Can I see where Theo is?
You cannot see where Theo is. The last you saw, he went upstairs.
All right.
Well, he was heading that direction, at least.
So he just left me?
It looked that way. It looked like he was... Maybe he had a plan, maybe not. You saw him go in that direction.
All right, Galfred is squaring off with this man charging at him, and we see his intense eyes bore into this man who is charging him. He locks gaze with the man, and he is already whispering something under his breath as he brings up his hands and makes a motion with his hands towards the club-wielding man. Is the club in his hand weighing a pound or less?
I would say it's right on that tip. I would say, yeah, it's like almost a pound. So I would say under. It's not very, it's very crude.
All right. Those are automatic successes of damage as the motion of his hand suddenly yanks the man's club in the direction of his own head. Basically, what everyone would see is Galfred making a motion of his hand, and this club coming up to slam him in his own head, while it's still gripped in his hand. Actually, let me go ahead and roll damage.
Okay.
Actually, what's the damage on that club?
Let me look. Damage is strength +2. Blunt. Well, to the head it'd be lethal.
Alright, he takes 3 levels of lethal. What happens is this club bashes him in the face.
So as you see that you gain control of the club briefly, he doesn't even realize that he's lost control of it as this club quickly jerks to the side and it knocks this man, and he is so stunned that he just falls to the floor as it hits him from the side. He falls to the floor, and there's blood running down the side of his head, and he seems completely dazed by this sudden, abrupt blow from whatever you did to him.
All right, do I have enough left in my turn to move?
No, I'm going to say that action kind of took up most of those 3 seconds for you to concentrate on that.
Okay.
But yeah, that club man, he's not getting up this next turn. You see him kind of rolling on the ground in pain and clearly dazed. He's not in good shape. One sec. Okay, so that puts us next to Deborah.
Am I correct that, let's see, who was that? John actually came to cover me after he dispatched his own opponent?
He was heading that way. He didn't quite make it to you.
Okay, she will get a look of fear on her face as she starts to kind of run around him and run straight towards the various angry club-wielding men, etc., that are coming in from outside. She kind of gives a panicked expression. She shouts, "Oh, thank you! I finally managed to escape from them," etc. You know, she tries to simulate that she'd been a captive and that she is now escaping, and she's trying to run to the door. I want to create as much distraction and confusion as I can by running at him. I'm gonna spend a point of blood for awe, and I'm gonna see how well that goes.
Okay, so with awe, you're just trying to gain attention?
Yes.
Okay.
So point of blood and charisma and performance.
Okay, roll it out. And re-roll that 10.
The reroll is the same difficulty?
Yep, it's typical 7.
Okay, I can reroll again.
Yep, do it again.
Wow. Okay, it stops.
Alright, so your aim, were you trying to get the attention of these other men who had kind of penned you in?
I am trying to essentially block the door by running straight into that group, flailing my arms and shouting that, you know, they'd almost captured me and that, you know, she's trying to escape and etc. Remember some of her flaws and merits. I think I can pull it off to at least, you know, that will get their attention. Let me see. This should affect 6 people at least.
So the only trouble is that there is still a few men who are in your path.
Yeah, I'm gonna ignore those. I want to block the door, so draw the attention of the people at the door. You know, as if I'm trying to escape towards my rescuers or something.
Okay, you definitely get attention. A lot of the men running in, especially the ones right coming into the door, they stop, and a couple of them stop long enough to speak to you, like, "Oh, what's this one doing here? You don't look like a monster. Who are you? What are you doing here?" And he's got his weapons raised because you've definitely grabbed his attention, but he's confused.
Oh, it was dark and I was trying to get home, and you know, out of a side street, and she's trying to act, you know, really panicked and, you know, talking in stutter step. Essentially, I'm just gonna try and hold her attention as long as I can, while the rest of the people deal with the few that are still loose in the room. If I can mingle among them, so I can affect more of them, I will gladly do so.
Why were you here? What were you doing here?
I was trying to get home. I was just walking down the street. And she's kind of trying to draw them along to indicate where on the street she was walking.
You hear another guy come up from behind you.
She kind of tries to look at people, you know, look at people in the eye, and so, you know, they get the full effect of her presence.
Yeah, a lot of people are like listening to this man kind of speak to you. So you've got several people kind of standing and watching you now. You hear another man from behind who looks a little bit older and a little bit bigger. "She was in this building with them. That's all the reason I need to kill her."
She tries to suppress saying, "Oh bother." And she's trying to hold up her act, but she has the feeling that stuff may be crumbling around her. But, you know, it's probably as much as is happening this turn. Do I get the impression that he kind of resisted it, or was he just looking through the facade?
You definitely got his attention, and he started to look at you. He didn't buy your story for whatever reason. Yeah. But, you're kind of passed up as, like... Well, let me think for a second.
I mean, how long are rounds? I'm gonna assume it's like 5 or 6 seconds.
It's just 3 seconds, really, so... This whole conversation kind of, like, went by pretty quick. As you kind of got shoved back into this corner by this man who was not convinced by you. So you kind of got rebuked once getting attention, and they kind of gave you a shove. It's not part of this original 7, it was just kind of like some of these people rushing in, and you get shoved back. So I'm gonna roll a few bashing damage as this man kind of like pushes you to the ground back in this corner with these other monsters they've found. So incoming bashing damage. Got a pretty good push.
Okay. Given the situation I was in, I probably don't have a chance to dodge it, since I was directly mingling with him.
Right, you're just gonna have to soak this one up front. So go ahead and roll your soak. It's gonna be cut in half anyway, but you did get pushed to the floor. Okay. So you totally soak this as this big man from behind, seems maybe like a leader of some of the mob, perhaps, because he seems to have a lot of confidence in what he says. He pushes you back into this corner, back to these fiends that they found. Do it all. You're just knocked onto the ground as these, as most of the men seem content that you're not any threat to them.
Okay.
And then Grey Rat's gonna be next fastest to react to this unfolding situation.
As the chaos kind of envelops the room that they were all standing in so peacefully before, Grey Rat kind of examines the room. Are there any, like, weapons or anything within reach of him?
A couple weapons have fallen to the floor as people have started to die. Immediately by you, a club has fallen to the floor, and a a hand axe.
Grey Rat's gonna...
And a saber.
Oh, saber, not a hand axe, a saber. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Grey Rat's gonna actually move to pick up the hand axe, and then
It was
he's
a saber.
gonna... Oh,
I was wrong.
saber, I'm sorry. Grey Rat's gonna go to move to pick up the saber, and then he's going to activate his obfuscate unseen presence. So as he picks it up, he stands up and looks towards the fray as anyone or any mortal that's watching. He just sort of vanishes into a blur.
I'm wondering if... Let me see your character sheet really quick. Because that might be a particular ability. Okay. I'll send you a PM really quick. Sorry guys, just making sure I understand something.
Okay. Sorry about that, guys.
Where's...
Okay. As when he picks up the saber, does he see anybody readily preparing to attack him?
Yeah, a different man with a saber is coming at you.
That would be Saberman 1.
That is correct.
Okay. Grey Rat's gonna take the initiative, and with an ability to move that was surprising from the calm, collected man before, he's going to duck down and try to impale this man in the chest with this new saber.
Alright, go ahead and roll out Dex Melee. Cool, reroll your gen. Okay, that definitely connected. So you can roll strength +2 plus your success.
Okay. And just to clarify, are ones subtracting from successes on damage?
No. You can, I think if you use the soak damage macro, it should not.
Okay.
Alright, so you deal 3 lethal. Go ahead and describe what you do to this man as you this is a severe blow to this man. Untreated, he'll die from it.
Does the 10 explode?
Oh yeah, because the 1 did not take away from it. Go ahead and reroll that 10.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, so this, yeah, even more so of a deadly blow. This man's nearly felled by your attack. Go ahead and describe it.
Yeah, as he's charging in, Grey Rat kind of ducks down and then brings the saber up and into the man's belly as it spews blood all down the blade and onto the floor. These cold, dead iron eyes looking up at the man.
Yeah, this man, clearly not very trained with any swordsmanship. He's just running with a sword out. He does not anticipate your skill. And before he even knows what's happening, he finds this sword planted in him, and he's looking down in fear at this affect-free mask. And he's just like, just looking in fear and blood spitting out as you impale him on your sword. He's taken 4 lethal. He's very much in bad shape. Okay. And he is too stunned from this attack to actually raise his sword. He makes a very pathetic attempt to raise his sword, but he drops his sword. He's so thoroughly in pain and just broken from this. He's not a man of war at all. So he just stays there impaled on your sword. Pathetic and weak. The next man to move in is a man wielding a dagger. And he is going to come after Tito. So he has his dagger raised towards Tito. And he is just going to go for a basic slash. He doesn't seem to know what he's doing with this thing either. He just seems like he's mad and he's got a dagger. and it's nothing pretty. He just runs screaming at, "Ugh!" And he runs at you with this dagger raised, and he just misses completely. It's a poor attempt. It just goes through air, and he just swings clear over your head, Tito, making nothing to you. Next is the Hatchet Man. He is aiming at Galfred, and he's gonna come at you with his hatchet. And again, no real form. He's just going for an attack. And do whatever he can. And he connects. Let's see how well he connected. He's got... I'm gonna send you a PM. If I can get this up. There it is.
Okay.
All right. Go ahead and roll your soak against lethal. All right, yeah. So this man, much to his horror, he connects this hatchet into you, and somehow it pierces your skin, and he knows this. He watched it happen, but as he retrieves the hatchet, it's as though nothing had happened at all.
In fact, as he swings the axe down and brings it into Galfred's chest, the Tremere cainite pauses for only a minute. He grits his teeth and glares at the man with that penetrating gaze, and we see Galfred's cloak open, and a pewter amulet on his chest flashes briefly blood red before fading out, and the wound closes up as he pulls his axe out of his chest. And as he does so, Galfred emits a low growl from the back of his throat, showing the tips of his fangs as his lips roll back in a sneer.
Devilry! This is the devil incarnate! He's going to have to roll his courage, because that was impossible, so far as he is concerned.
Can I make use of that to ham it on and say, I told you I was trying to escape, flee while we can? She's trying to urge people to run with her outside of the building.
Hold on 1 second, let me do this roll. Surprisingly, this man seems emboldened The devil! You are all the devil, and you will all be destroyed tonight. He says this at you as he retrieves his hatchet. The next man to get his attack in is a man with a pitchfork. And he looks like he's going straight for Deborah. He's charging pitchfork forward, going for that attack. So I'm dealing with lots of PMs. Okay.
Okay. I still don't have a practical defense of any kind.
Yeah, this man sees that, and he sees you after you get pushed back. Maybe emboldened by this heap, he goes in, he runs in, and he connects with his pitchfork. So let me roll damage on that. Look at pitchfork. Okay. Yeah, he's definitely gonna be doing a couple. Nope, he's not gonna be doing anything at all.
Man, oh man, I'm lucky on myself, guys.
Yeah, that was good. Unfortunately, it does not do any credit to your story, because this man runs you. He gets a pretty solid stab into you with this pitchfork, and he pulls it out and sees the wounds close through the holes in your dress, and his eyes go wide. A monster! She's a monster just like them! Folder. But he doesn't do anything to you.
I know, but, you know.
The last man to get his attack in is a man who does have a hand axe. And he looks like he is going for Grey Rat with this hand axe. So let's see how he does. This is a well-aimed attack, at least for him. Hand axe. It's a significant blow, impressive for a man just coming from the fields of some farm. Go ahead and roll your soak on this. It's going to be a heavy hit.
On whom was that?
And reroll your 10.
It was on Grey Rat.
Okay.
Ow.
Thankfully, your vampiric body is capable of withstanding such a blow. Any regular man would be torn in half. He would have an axe down the center of his body as this man brings an axe down to you and cleaves through your shoulder blade into your chest. And it would have gone much farther if it was not for the durability of your body, but it does cut deep. And you are hit for 3 lethal after everything's said and done. Describe that for me.
Yeah, Grey Rat, still peering into the eyes of the man he skewered, somewhat longingly. Doesn't even see the man come from his side and just bring the axe down into his shoulder, splitting him. He cries out from underneath his mask, very muddled and metallic sounding, as he drops down to one knee and then quickly looks up. This flips back the hood of his black shawl, and you can see that the mask is wrapped around him with leather straps, and his actual head is, you can see, is very deformed and grotesque, and as if the skin itself was peeling.
Ugh, look at the beast! It does not die! We'll cut it to pieces! So now we return to a new round of combat as John, having just cleaved a man in half, but unable to protect Deborah, is now able to make a new action.
So, can I presume that Deborah ran, like, to the door, so whoever's attacking her is in her, where his back is to me?
Not exactly. She started to make it that way, and she basically got shoved back with such force. She basically ended up back in this corner where the five of you are gathered.
So it's from the side, then?
Yeah.
Okay. Same thing for whoever just hit Grey Rat. Am I behind and or to the side of him?
You'd be behind this guy who just came at Grey Rat.
Okay, so declare multiple actions. Regular hit on whoever just hit Deborah, and then another regular hit on whoever just hit Grey Rat.
The only way to do multiple attack actions with celerity.
Oh, you can't do it with multiple actions, period, anymore?
No, you need celerity to make
They
it attack
ruined the
attacks.
game. Alright, then I guess I'll hit whoever hit Deborah then. And yeah, whatever.
Okay. Just like regular slash?
Yep.
Okay. That's gonna be on this pitchfork man. And yeah, you're attacking from the side, so
Is
you
that
get
+1 dice or
yep,
change the
+1.
difficulty? Okay. Pitchfork.
Yep, man with the pitchfork who just called her a monster because stabbing her apparently had no effect.
Alright, it's 4. Whee!
Yep, that's an impressive attack, so go ahead and roll the damage.
I did. I had 4 successes on the attack. That is damage.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, this man is all but obliterated by this attack. Describe what you're doing to this man.
Going for his right shoulder if he's right-handed. The main goal to disable any ability for him to attack again. In case it's not coming across. A very intellectual and methodical approach to an application of violence. This is a thinking man's doing. Fortunately, he also has vampiric strength behind it. So, probably cleaves at least down to like the second to the last rib. And the force drops the guy immediately to his knees. And doesn't even have time to utter any kind of sound or anything before his life is snuffed out instantly. But as he falls, John makes contact with Deborah and gives her a slight nod before he turns his attention toward Grey Rat or whoever else is still left, scanning the room again.
Yeah, this man, he takes your blow and you only hear the guttural sound of blood and viscera being torn through. You don't hear the man's voice as he just falls to the floor, most likely unconscious, but he'll be dead in minutes, if not moments, likely from this attack. For all intents and purposes, he is completely out of commission. We move now to Tito, who he unfortunately missed his attack. He fell onto the floor. You can try and get up the same turn as doing an action. I believe that's
Dex Athletics.
Dex Athletics, yeah.
Sure, Tito will try
Or
that.
6, or is it 4?
Difficulty's, yeah, 6. Try and get up and then make an action. Okay, it's easy enough for you to hop back up on your feet in no time at all, and you see the scene unfolding around you. The man you went to punch in the face is on the ground. He's you probably didn't see what happened to him, but you see him now. He's on the ground, his head is bleeding, he's clearly still stunned by whatever happened to him. You see this man with a saber, he is just recoiling from a horrible blow, a horrible stab wound. He's clutching his chest, holding his sword weakly out. Another man is holding a dagger who just completely tried to... he tried to stab you and he just missed, which was embarrassing because you were on the ground. A man with a hatchet stands ready, and a man with an axe is they're squaring off also.
Are any of these peasants grouped up?
Yeah, the man with the hand axe and the hatchet are kind of together a little bit. They're in proximity to each other.
Alright, Tito's next action will be to use Shroud of Night to just blanket those two in darkness.
Okay. Roll it out. No, remember what that roll is exactly.
Manipulation Occult, difficulty 7.
That sounds about right. Yeah, that'd be a public roll. Give me 1 sec. So as I recall, that ability basically suffocates people in darkness, right?
Yep.
Alright. At 1 success, well, who were you aiming? Who in particular were you aiming at?
The two that are grouped up.
Which in particular?
Well, let's say Hatchet Man.
Okay, so yeah, at 1 success, you definitely create some inky blackness that begins to just manifest around this man, much to his horror. And you can barely see the figure through this darkness, which is almost completely opaque. And he seems to be clutching his throat. He seems barely able to hold himself together. The man next to him did not seem to be affected by it, but this man with the hatchet seems very much...
I don't think he's within 10 feet.
Is that 1 success?
Yep.
Okay, then yeah, I think that definitely would have. That 10 feet would definitely encompass the second man. Yeah, both men, hatchet and hand axe, would then be caught in this. If it's that wide and it was centered on the hatchet man, they're both caught up in this. Unfortunately, I think Deborah was also close enough to that. So Deborah is going to get caught in that as well.
Sorry.
But luckily, vampires are not affected the same way as humans. They don't need to breathe. So these two men are very... They seem to be choking so far as you can see through this darkness. I think this lowers the stamina of Deborah. Yeah. Yeah, let me make that roll for them. And these are not brave men that you're fighting. Yeah, neither of them are keeping their wits together. They drop their weapons in fear, just clutching at their throats as this completely occult blackness consumes them and Deborah.
What is the roll?
It affects stamina. I do not. Do you remember what the roll is, Snap? For vampires. For humans, it's paralyzing to humans.
Reduces stamina dice pools by 2 dice.
Okay.
So just 2 dice?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like it.
What's the difficulty?
Is it a...
Doesn't say there's a difficulty check.
So the default is shapeshift, there's nothing else listed.
I think it's just a flat 2 by being caught in this. But you're not suffocated, so you can leave it, unlike them.
Yeah, flat 2 for every moment you spend in it.
Okay. There you go. Thanks for looking that up. So then, yeah, these two men, not only are they're choking, they're trying to get a breath in this cloud, this thick, viscous blackness. But they've dropped their weapons. They have no will to fight right now. They're self-concerned. They're concerned with self-preservation. We move now to Galfred, witnessing this 10-foot cloud of blackness just appear next to you and consume 3 people, including one of these people with you.
So Galfred immediately steps back away from the pool of inky blackness, not fully contemplating or comprehending what is happening. All he knows is that he needs to survive, and with his amulet spent and lifeless around his neck, he needs to switch into survival mode right now. He's going to take a split second to look around the room and take in his surroundings. Who is currently looking to attack him this round?
Okay. The clubman is still on the ground. The man that's still holding his saber is clutching his wound, and it looks like he's going to attack John. The man with the dagger looks like he's going back after Tito, and the other 2 are they're paralyzed in fear and suffocation. So no one's going for Galfred right now.
All right. Knowing that they could overcome the others and turn on him at any moment, we see Galfred... whoops. Drop the mic. We see Galfred sweep back his cloak and roll up his sleeves, and for the first time on each of his knuckles, we see runes in chalk written on the back of his hands and each fingers as he takes a posture in the dirt, slips his boot out to shift his weight to one foot to the other, and he begins whispering as he begins a great conjuring, and the air begins to warp around him as he conjures this blood magic, whispering "Fiat voluntas tua potestate mea signaculum," murmuring this incantation as he draws the power up in the air and begins to seize the weapons held by the clubman, the saberman, and the daggerman all at once. They shudder in their hands and warp as he conjures the power of his blood.
Alright. I think that's a willpower roll.
And I will be spending a point of willpower for this.
Okay.
All right, so that's 2 successes with the willpower point.
Yep. In order, which ones were you aiming for?
Well, immediately, Galfred seizes control of the club, the saber, and the dagger, held by each individual man in the room. They shudder and then suddenly jerk out of their hands and turn on them. First, the club rises where the man lays on the ground, and then it comes down in a crashing thud on his head for 2 automatic successes. I'll roll damage. And that was strength +2 on that club, right?
Yep, that's right.
He takes 2 more levels of lethal to his head as he is clobbered in the face. It smashes his nose, and blood begins spurting out of his broken, ruined face.
Yeah, and he was only barely. He wasn't even fully recovered from the first blow. This second one, even more painful and disabling. He is out cold from this. He's probably not dead, but he was probably either dying or on the way from that much blunt trauma to the head. And he's out cold right now, so he is gone. And you said the other 2 weapons just dropped to the floor?
No, the saber in the saber man's hand, it shudders and it turns upward to immediately make a beeline towards his eye, to jam deep into his eye, turning upward to impale him directly in his left eye. So that's a direct hit for 2 successes, and we're going to be rolling damage on that. How much damage does that saber do?
That saber, let's see. Strength +2 also.
All right, +2 damage for a hit in the eye.
It's horrifying what happens. This man who is he's clutching the wound in his chest from Grey Rat, when he just realizes that he's losing his grip on this saber as it just turns upward and goes through, piercing the back of his skull through the eye, and it just snaps his face shut in a bloody mess as he crumples to the floor. It's just a terrifying sight to watch.
And with this witchcraft whipping around the room in the air, shifting with the waves of Galfred, you may not know what is happening or where this is coming from, but if you're looking in his direction, you're seeing him using 2 fingers to very gently make whipping motions with his hand, and as if in response, these weapons leap to his commands. As he murmurs beneath his breath, you can see him whispering as he looks at the dagger man and motions with his hand. And immediately the dagger leaps up out of his hand and begins stabbing him in the face over and over again. It's a horrifying sight. Direct hit to his head for 2 successes as we roll damage. That's strength +1 on that dagger, right?
That is... yes.
All right, so somehow I guess he manages to fend it off as the dagger starts stabbing at his face.
Yeah, he realizes that he's losing control of this knife, and perhaps seeing that the men around him are losing control of their weapons and dying to them, he backs away and just drops it to the floor, and the dagger doesn't drop, it moves in a motion as if it was going to stab where he was, and it just misses barely as he moves to the side. But that saber man is completely gone.
Yeah, the sword is completely impaled through his eye. In fact, the blade is sticking out the back end of his head.
Yeah. We move now back to Deborah, who just got stabbed, but then she got saved by John, who came from the side.
She's been stabbed twice now, and it doesn't seem to have done a scratch to her. So she will stand up as tall as she can. Not very tall, admittedly, but still. And she will bare her teeth, and she will hiss at the people around her, and gesture to the carnage going on. I don't want to kill you. leave. You don't want to see what I can do.
So the only man left that isn't already paralyzed by this black ink is the man in the dagger who narrowly got knifed. How do you want to... it sounds like you're trying to intimidate him, so go for a charisma, intimidation, and this man almost got stabbed by a knife he was holding himself, so he's not very grounded. It's not going to be very difficult, even for you. I'll make a difficulty 6.
Okay, since intimidation is a talent, I don't actually need to have ranks in it, which is good since I have none. Is this public dice or not?
Yep, this would be public because it's a
Okay.
social roll, so people can see you trying to do this.
Okay. What's the DC? The difficulty?
Intimidate someone mid-fight, it'd be pretty hard, but this guy he just watched his friends get slaughtered by the most occult and terrifying means possible, so it's
Yeah.
difficulty 6.
Okay, yeah, I was referring to that with the gestures, etc., to make it kind of believable. 2 hits. Could be worse. Oh, a 10.
Okay, we rolled a 10.
And that's another one. 3 hits.
Yeah. This man, hearing your voice and seeing your teeth, small as though you are, you clearly... You survived a stab. The men in front of them... these monsters in front of him have just cut down and just obliterated all of this man's friends. His eyes go wide with fear, and he runs back into this crowd that seems to be busy with something. He gets lost in the crowd, and he just flees. And now the only people who are left, and that's barely what you can call them, is these 2 men caught in this cloud choking to death.
She will, by the way, in Latin murmur under her voice, that's not the one not killed. She seems to be kind of relieved.
Okay, so we've got Grey Rat. You took a pretty serious hit from this man with the saber, but then the man with the saber got stabbed by his own sword, and he just dropped dead. So the only 2 people immediately cornering you guys were these two men, a hatchet and a hand axe guy. They're not really cornering you so much as they are unfortunate enough to be in the vicinity of this bloodbath.
Was it not the hand axe man that attacked me?
Oh, it might have been the hand axe man, actually.
Okay. As Grey Rat kind of stands up, the wound in his shoulder where it had cut and the shroud that he was wearing has opened up to show the wound. The wound slowly starts to close as he stands and rises to his feet. He walks over to the man that is choking in shadow, and with a moment that he stares down at him, he's going to shove his saber into his chest.
Alright, this is not going to be hard at all. The man he's completely broken, and he's choking to death. It's going to be difficulty 4. It's really just about controlling yourself.
Difficulty 4.
You connect.
Got that one.
Got it.
Alright, and then the damage... What's the damage for the saber again?
Strength plus 2. Alright. And again, this man can't soak any of this. You just drive this pretty much through the side of him and out the other side. And he was already doing really poorly. you open up a pretty significant wound. He might have been okay with it. He might have survived this if he wasn't already choking, but he's quickly fading. You can see that even in just the 6 seconds he's been in this cloud, he's starting to lose strength. And
Grey
this,
Rat.
go ahead.
Grey Rat just kind of gets closer to the man to where he can see his eyes, and for those paying attention, he slowly begins to twist and turn the blade that he had just stabbed him with, while he pulls up his hood back over his head.
You can see that the fear in this man here. There are tears strolling down his eyes. He's in pain. He's terrified, and he's choking to death, and he's being stabbed to death. This is not what this man signed up for, likely. And I'm gonna skip both of them because they're caught in this cloud and they're choking to death. And it goes straight back to John.
Okay, so there's nobody really left doing anything in here, and there's nobody coming in the door there. So I imagine looking out the door, there's something distracting the crowd that they're not looking at us anymore.
There seems to be, like, a lot of the mob that was coming in through the door has kind of piled at the door. They're all surrounded at something. You can't really see what. The exit's not clear. It's just that it seems like the group that came at you is nearly dead.
What do you mean surrounded at something?
So there is a door. The doorway leading in.
Yep.
They've stopped rushing in. There's not mobility. It's more like a crowd of them have gathered, looking at something or messing with something near the doors. They're all turned away from you.
So they're not facing inward. They're not facing inside looking at us. They're facing something outside.
Not this group.
Okay. Well, then John's going to say, well, they're going to regroup and come at us, or they might not. Either way, we need to get out of here. So, form on me. We're going to need to carve our way out of this. And I'll just take a lead position and stab the first guy in the doorway in the back.
Alright,
And if I need to, I can roll like some leadership or whatever charisma stuff to see how inspiring I can be at it, or you guys just decide what you want to do.
no, a thing is gonna happen that won't necessitate that. So, with these two men caught in the cloud, completely incapable of defending themselves, being stabbed to death, and just broken, there really is no one left to fight, the five of you realize, except for this significantly larger mob that's kind of on the outskirts of this section of the tavern. But as John goes to slash this man in the back, and he cleaves him in half, he brings him down, but it draws the attention of a dozen, maybe 24 more men who all turn to you. And they have all manner of weapons, and it looks as though they are about to engage you also. They look like they're about to turn and fight. But the beginning, the first of these men start to turn, and they look angry, but that anger fades as they see the mess that all of you have wrought. They see the men that have died and the horrible ways they've died. They see the men cut in half, the man with the sword in his face, the men caught in this occult blackness, and this overwhelming fear. You just see it on their faces. Their energy drops, and they just look wide-eyed in horror at all that you have, this bloody gore mess you have left in front of you, the five of you. And they raise their weapons, but the people in front are backing up. Back. Get out of the way. We'll just burn it down. We'll just burn this incestuous monster house down. They keep their swords out as they back up, and the people behind them see, and they start to back up. And some of the men coming from upstairs see that their friends have left them, and they run. And soon the tavern is cleared of the mob, as you've frightened off most of the ones. Well, you've frightened off everyone who came in, with the amount of gore you have left in front of you, and the apparent failure that any of them seem to have done any damage to you. So this mob leaves, and we're going to pause right here to take a break, because we're a little bit over 2 hours now, and I'd like to give us a break for bathroom and stuff, or, you know, snacks, whatever. And we'll come back in like 10 minutes, something I stole from Michael's game because I liked it a lot. It's a good chance, get a break, get a bathroom, do whatever, and we'll be back in about 10 minutes to pick up. Sound good?
Alright, cool.
Cool. Alright, be back in 10 minutes.
I'm back as well.
Okay, I'm back.
And I'm
Everybody here?
Yep.
I think a lot of us.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's missing.
Mm-hmm.
Rake's here.
Yep.
Okay, sweet. We can begin the scene as you guys kind of come back to everything.
Before we get too far past it, who was it who was saying leave it to adventure to try to lead everybody?
That was Gavin Malrick, La Sombra.
I'm gonna write his name down.
You can do that. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and get started.
Hey, that gives you a leg up on most people. At least you can write.
Alright. So, you see now that the mob is gone. The tavern is littered with bodies and blood, not just the ones you created, but more beyond that, behind the wall and in the other areas. Piles of dark, dried viscera, ash and decaying corpses occasionally spotting the humans. Across the room you see the remnants of two vaguely familiar shapes. You see an adult female huddled over in protection around a smaller individual, both ashen and decayed, the child less decayed, both pierced together into the floor by a spear, and both now headless. Simon appears to be the only other remaining cainite, coming out from the back room, himself covered in stab wounds, drenched in blood, mixture of his own and probably others. And he looks down and holds the side where the wounds are not closing, and he sees you. He speaks up. Never was very fast at healing these. And he looks up to the doorway that's been knocked down. They will return soon, I fear. But not all of us will end here tonight. That is not what I saw. He begins to pace the room. Many of the chairs and tables have been knocked over. This straw has been tossed aside, revealing some of the wooden floor, which some of you might realize is rare for how old this building was. Straw floor would have been more common. Some of these original Roman villages here were once raided frequently. Some built small trenches for hiding and escape. He finds one of these wooden panels that was under a table now knocked over. And he stops at it, and with one thunderous step, breaks through the wooden planks, revealing a tiny crawl space, barely deep enough to fit a person through, maybe one at a time. I wondered when I saw. I doubt even Mr. Gacy or his people knew of this. Finally, he turns back to you all. You must be... Yes. You must be the survivors of this horrid night. You must be the Reliquos. Survive this night, Reliquos, so that you may find the source of my vision. Find the man atop the ruins, and find the plague bearer. He looks back to the door. I can end this, but all who hear me will be driven to the beast. So you must go quickly. You must cover your ears as you go. Whatever you do, do not look back and do not tarry. How's everyone reacting to this?
I'm assuming there is actually some evidence that something might be coming back. Like cries out in the distance or something. Some torches coming closer or something.
You know generally that they have not left the area, and you heard that man say something about burning the building down. So they're either gonna come back to kill you all, or perhaps burn it all down with you inside.
So, at the end of the battle, and all the corpses were around, did we see all of the other guests among those corpses, or?
It's hard to recognize the bodies. Some of them are very decayed and very much destroyed and mutilated, but you would recognize most of them, and simple common sense would rationalize that they're all dead. Everyone is dead, except for the 5 of you and Simon. There are enough piles of ash and decayed corpses to account for the bodies. You can say that.
Fair enough.
I will... John looks to Simon and says, Should I find any of your line in the remainder of the sun life, I shall repay this debt. And motions to Deborah to lead the way through the tunnel.
She will actually look sorrowful. She will address Simon. These men did not act as if they came here from their own volition. And we probably don't have time to know who sent them. But what they are doing is not good for them or for us. What they are doing is not good for their soul. I wish there was a way we could stop them from destroying these fingers together, this masquerade.
Simon, still clutching his wounds, kind of gives you a weak smile. You are wise, Deborah. They likely were sent by someone or something. I do not see many alternatives here.
She will not. In the meantime, by the way, she is very careful not to step in any blood. And when there's, blood smeared on a table or something, she will kind of walk around it with like a pace or two distance. She seems to have an aversion touching the blood. And she kind of peers at the hole and turn to the rest of the group. Well, if we stay, we'll have to fight them, and we'll have to fight the fear of fire, and only bloodshed can come of that. Let us go forward then. And she starts to crawl into the hole.
Okay.
Talbot follows.
How is Galfred reacting to this?
Galfred is looking around for Theo to see if he can see him anywhere.
You find through the ruins and the bodies, you do find some robes burying a man who looks closer to a much older, decayed corpse than what once was Theo, but you recognize the robes that he came in, and his broken body's in pieces. You see a skull kind of not far away.
You see Galfred kneeling down to examine the robes, his fingers, which are chalked in runes and occult designs of very strange make and geometry. He spreads his fingers through the ashes and narrows his eyes, gripping his fingers tight, rolling them into a fist, before reaching up to the skull and plucking the fangs out of the mouth to take the fangs with him. He will need to present something to the others to show them proof that Theo met his end here. Before rising and turning to the rest, who is still in the room?
Deborah and John went into this crawl space. Simon is slowly making his way to the door, the front door. So otherwise it's still Grey Rat and Tito.
Well, Tito, I guess he would look for signs of Gavin, but was he wearing anything that stood out?
Forest green cloak, black dark doublet. On the second level, you find him amidst a pile of corpses. He seems to have brought down a number of people before they finally slew him, and he's shattered in pieces.
Alright.
Galfred finally breaks his interminable silence and approaches Simon as he goes for the door. Master Simon.
Simon turns to you slowly.
Do you think perhaps the plague bearer in this city and this attack tonight are connected in some way?
He smiles at you, but he does not say anything.
Galfred stares at him for a moment, and when he realizes that Simon isn't going to give any forthcoming answers, he will go on to say, I'm very skilled in the manner of the four humors, in the physical body. I am a surgeon, you could say. If you have the remains of the bodies that were ravaged by this malady, I could perhaps divine, see if the source is supernatural or natural in nature.
Your skills will be needed, Galfred of Ipswich.
Of course, I am at your disposal, Galfred says, bowing briefly at the waist, to show a bit of sign of respect to this older cainite.
He turns back to look out the open passage. What's Tito doing now? He's found Gavin.
Potato will start heading for the crawl space, muttering a prayer beneath his breath.
Okay. And Grey Rat?
Grey Rat is actually knelt down next to the body of the man who had struck him with a small wooden like chiseled cup that he has pushed into his wound, and he's trying to get some of the blood out of it into the cup, and then he'll stand and slowly walk towards the door with the cup in hand, or the hatch rather.
You're walking towards the door where Simon is?
No, where everyone else left.
Okay, so you're taking a cup of blood from this man and then trying to enter the passageway?
Yeah.
Okay. It's extremely small. Trying to keep that cup up and not spilling will be extremely difficult.
Okay. Seeing that as he gets there, he'll look down and kind of examine it as he turns his head over. He'll kind of move off to the side where he knows he's out of the line of sight of Simon and Galfried, and his mask kind of, you can see from over his shoulder, it kind of comes up a little as he kneels, just throws his head back and drinks the cup, and then lets it fall to the floor, reassembling his mask and adjusting his hood before he goes down.
Okay. So do your thing.
Galfred is the last to enter the crawl space, watching the others before ducking down and following after.
I think, yeah, that's the last of you. So, the last thing you see, Galfred, of Simon is him leaving the door, or leaving the tavern and walking out towards the mob, as it were. And we're going to change to a different scene. So, the five of you eventually get into this small crawl space. And after about a minute of crawling, you hear something from behind you in the distance. And it's pitch black down here. You hear something, maybe someone. It almost sounds like a chorus of distant, muffled howls in unison. It's as if the very screams of hell itself are calling out. It's completely unnatural and occult. It lingers and echoes, but you can't tell if the echo is inside your mind or reverberating through the crawl space. But you feel a sense of deafening and pressure on your eardrums, like someone's screamed into the side of your head. Blood leaks slowly out of your eyes and ears, and this deafened state remains, but the howl eventually passes. The cramped, narrow hole you're climbing through, light, only just barely wide enough to fit your torso. It twists and turns sharply and frequently. Only by feel can you possibly navigate it. Unfortunately, it seems to lack any forks. You crawl for maybe an hour, all through the pitch black, when finally your hearing returns. But in comparison to the screams of death and carnage you left behind, the silence you hear now is deafening, as you are left alone with your thoughts and the sounds of your companions shuffling as you feel your way together through this engulfing darkness. I leave this scene to you.
Well, Galfred is bringing up the rear, crawling through that damp, narrow, dark space. I'm going to be using auspex to sharpen his vision so that he can see as best as possible in this pitch black, and take his time in following after the others.
Out of character. Auspex 1 or 2? Because it matters whether you will see our auras or not.
No, you have to actually concentrate and look for an aura. You can still just turn Auspex on even with 2. It's just heightened senses.
Mm-hmm.
So he's just trying to see better, but really all he can see, if he can see anything at all, it'd be difficult even with Auspex, but you wouldn't be able to really see past the body of Tito as he crawls ahead of you. And there are frequent turns, so there's not much to see at all.
Alright, well, Galfred will continue on in darkness.
How is John handling this? Does he say anything or remain
No,
quiet?
John's following Deborah and just conscientiously trying to remind himself to touch the side of the walls every once in a while to make sure they're not missing a turn or something. Otherwise, this is just another trial to endure until we can get to the end of it. Slowly considering clawing his way up through it, because it's probably just dirt anyway. Considering clawing his way through the dirt if it doesn't end somewhat soon.
How about Grey Rat?
Grey Rat is somewhere in the middle as he's making his way through these tunnels. In the dark, he seems to be maybe a little more at home crawling around in the dark than some of the other cainites, but he doesn't move very well in these very small, tight spaces. So he is taking his time. It seems almost difficult, or that he just doesn't wish to go very fast. So he's making steady pace, but very slowly.
At first, Deborah will be quiet and introverted. Not saying much, gives a bit of a somber impression. After a while, she will, just with a few words, try and get some chit-chat from the rest of the group behind her, get a feel for the mood, and start to encourage people to, keep spirits high. Remember that those peasants outside were probably set upon us by some kind of strange force. They may not have had a say in it, so don't hold it against people in general. I mean, it is what we sprang from, even if we are not of their kind anymore. That kind of thing. And in the meantime, she will just try and keep the party going. But she is kind of wondering about what caused all this. This seems she's not used to this kind of this feeling of the destiny unfolding, and she wants to see what this is about, but at the same time she is not eager to prod at it before its destined time comes around. So she's just willing to go with the flow and make sure everyone is not rebelling against this unfolding event.
The group of you can definitely hear her. The first hour you were completely deaf, but now there's really nothing to listen to. You don't have beating hearts, you really only have the sound of each other. So she's definitely audible to you. How does the group react to Deborah's attempt to justify the carnage and slaughter of 8 of your fellow cainites, some of you who maybe even were friends with? Including apparently a small child. How are you guys reacting to her words?
Galfred hears murmuring, but either he doesn't Either he doesn't care to respond or he doesn't hear her, but either way he remains silent and continues on.
Tito too is remaining silent, continuing on at a steady pace.
Grey Rat?
Greyback considers her words as he listens to her. He ponders the words, but he really has nothing to say at this point in time. He wishes to just upright themselves and get out of this tunnel.
Okay. So, it seems like everyone's kind of falling silent to her words of encouragement. So you kind of get that impression that your words are falling on deaf ears. No one seems to be in the mood to talk about what happened for one reason or another. But the five of you continue to crawl together into this the darkness that swallows all of you. Finally, after what feels like an eternity in this darkness with no real reference, you, Deborah, see the weak glimmer of what must be moonlight betraying an opening as you draw close. Okay, one sec. Okay.
So,
You just continuing forward to the light. There's really only one direction to go.
to reiterate, am I correct that Christopher Casey was one of the kindred that died?
Mm-hmm. He was there, and he did not make it out.
There's going to be repercussions from that. Who among us is Simon with us, by the way?
No,
Okay.
he did not come.
Who among us would be the most senior? If Christopher Casey died, as I believe,
John Talbot is. Without even knowing anybody else, John would just assume he is.
in that case, you may have some words to exchange with Lady Eleanor Grey. She is the sire of Christopher Casey, and one of the most powerful kindred in the city. She will probably want to hear of this.
I am sure Adam himself will want to hear of this.
Yes. As a side note, Christopher controlled most of the commercial property in along the river. I suspect a lot of that will be infested with mobs at the moment, baying for blood. But, we may need to consider our hunting grounds. Is any one of us of Clan Gangrel?
John would laugh. Ha!
I am not either. I am of Clan Toreador myself. But,
The only gangrel you recognized, or may have known about at that meeting, was the child, Willow May.
yeah, I know of one other that exists, but that doesn't help much.
If any are here, they're not speaking up, though.
But, I think we may have a hard time at Elysium explaining all this. But It is just our word to say that it was a setup, and we may be held responsible for the passing of Gacy.
While
But,
that may be true, I do not intend to immediately present myself to Elysium. I'm not sure what the rest of you intend to do.
I think it's better to confront the problem as soon as we are able to. The longer we wait, the more assumptions may be made against us, and it can be quite harmful.
Yes, it is best to deal with this at once. Guilt could be assumed if we did not show up.
Especially, of course, if we can verify that Simon will be there with us. That would be of great help.
Simon's met his end.
She looked around shocked. He sent us ahead, but he was... well... he was... not less alive than we are. What happened?
Didn't you hear him? He made himself
was in the
quite clear.
tunnel.
He explained that he would handle him, but that nobody else could remain. No one survived that.
You do remember, as you, a little bit after crawling in, you heard something, something titanic behind you, Deborah. You don't know what it was. You can only assume it came from Simon.
She will sit down.
Besides, even if he did survive, it would be the word of a Malkavian, an elder, but still a Malkavian.
He was wiser to Prince Adam, though.
He was. That is the operative word.
Simon was not the advisor.
That was Jeremiah, wasn't it?
Yes.
I have no
And
clue who Jeremiah is.
Jeremiah was his sire, right? Simon's sire.
That's correct.
Yeah, I would even say Jeremiah. I mean, assuming you still said that, if your character knows better, you might not have actually said that. But there's no love lost between Jeremiah and Adam, and he's a Malkavian. This is going to come down to more than us presenting ourselves and telling a tale and hoping somebody's going to believe us. That's why I don't intend to stroll right into Elysium. This is not some mortal court where the nobles are going to gather and listen and weigh in judgment. This is our kindred. There is no judgment. There is only who owes who knows who, and who's on top of the heap. I'm not walking into that.
To an extent, anyone with the mastery of Auspex that the Toreador probably possess can see the truth of what they say if they want to listen. But in their anger, especially in the passing of a child, they may not have the inclination.
Is anyone else going to join this conversation as Deborah closes in on the end of this tunnel?
No, but Galford is listening.
Okay. Go ahead.
When we actually get to the end of the tunnel and we're getting out of this black hole, I don't like trying to lead with people's faces in my ass. It just doesn't feel dignified. So that's anything I want to say is going to be as we get out. And since I'm the second one out, I know that I can stand there and wait for other people to get out and knock some of the dust off. And if they want to, I don't know who cares to be presentable, but that's when I'm gonna address anything.
All right.
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan.
So the mouth of this crawl space empties out into a marsh or a fen of some kind. The mouth is immediately covered in tall, growing marshland grass, wet with dew. You feel this as you pass through it, Deborah. It's just on the edge of a stagnant body of water, only a few feet deep. Floating plant life and foliage sits on top of the water. Tall, overhanging willow trees surround you. almost as a brief reminder of the child that just died, now watching you as you enter this world again. And there's far too much vegetation and plant life to see in the direction you came. It's very thick. You're well within this marsh. The tavern is out of sight, but I'd like you all to send me a wits survival, difficulty 6. If you don't have survival, it's at difficulty 7.
Wits and survival.
Mm-hmm.
Well then.
Private roll.
Yes, it's a private roll. Actually, I'll make it 6.
Make what 6?
With survival roll.
Hey, that should have been
You don't
a
have it?
private roll. Oh well.
That's
I
Wait.
must have mistyped.
What's the difficulty, Bukar?
6.
Okay.
Grey Rat, Alfred, John.
I must have accidentally sent it to the public thing, but I didn't get a hit.
Was that public?
Yep, you did it public. I think you did EM.
I will.
Yeah, that macro isn't working for me.
I got private from a couple of you.
That's
Yeah,
what I
I
do
suspect-
/GR because it's faster and easier.
Alright, let me send out some things. Okay. So you all emerge into this marsh. You get a look around at where you are approximately, and yeah, I'll leave the scene to you.
Well, I have decided on my course of action.
I am inclined to, well, I have said what I feel would be the best, but if we do not agree on that, I think it is best if we stick together and determine one course of action that all of us can live with.
Any who are so inclined are welcome to attend me.
What is your plan?
I'm going to present myself to my sire and make a full report.
Who is
Who
your
might
sire?
that be?
I'm willing to make introductions for any that wish to join me.
Your request to attend upon you without knowing who your sire is makes me rather hesitant.
There's no need for that. It's Ruby Pierce.
Still, I will be glad to be introduced to other kindred of the city, or of the land for that matter. But without knowing who your sire is, it will be hard for me to determine whether I want to accompany you.
I'm gonna send you a thing in Skype, Pat.
Okay. Out of character, by the way. I know that we have a Ventru, a Tremere, myself as a Toreador, and a Nosferatu. The fifth, I don't know.
The Sombra.
That's right.
That's what the Abyss stuff is.
Yep, correct. Assuming it was not a gear sheet, but that seemed, I think I would have noticed that. Okay, it seems that her memory comes back, and she will make a polite and somewhat apologetic bow to to you.
I would just retcon it and pretend like you didn't say it.
I will be glad to be introduced, as you please. She furtively tries to, brush some of the crud off her clothing. She clearly is not really used to crawling to that kind of spaces and tunnels.
I am most interested in examining one of these bodies racked by this malady, this illness which is sweeping through Europe. Apparently has made its way to London. I might divine, as I said to Simon, if the source of this disease is natural or supernatural in nature.
Do you have space within which you could conduct such examinations if we could find you a object of the sort you're looking for?
All I need is a body and a bit of time.
Well, surely you can't be cutting a body apart in the street. Do you have some space that you can work in?
I can perhaps be of service. But, I own a sizable building in town, and that I have been granted domain over, and I suspect that rooms can be found there. Although I am not trained, of course, in the arts of medicine, and she kind of, waves her hand as if that is self-explanatory. I am somewhat of a scholar, and perhaps I can be of service.
Alfred looks as though he doesn't object to this, although eerily, you think that he probably would have been just as much at home cutting up a body in the street.
Grey Rat continues to pace around, and then he begins to simply just head south without another word to the party.
John's gonna look at Tito and just that look on his face that I try to just convey in a glance, if possible, of any input from you on what you intend to do. And I'll wait about 5 seconds to see if he says anything before we start to head off.
Yes, my path is decided, but we should decide upon a rally point. I think the location mentioned by, what's it, an inn?
Deborah?
No, it is my private residence, but there should be ample room for all of us meeting. It would perhaps be best if I make arrangements, though. Only one of the members of the personnel knows of our kindred. So it's best if I make sure that we have an entrance to ourselves.
Well, if we're avoiding Elysium, we do need a proper spot to meet.
A fair warning, we cannot afford to avoid Elysium for too long.
Absolutely correct. I think we should meet up after we've spoken to our sires, or whatever we wish to do this evening.
Yeah, perhaps there is a complication for me. My sire is departed, and the next in the line of blood is Lady Eleanor. Sorry, my excuses. Yes, that is Lady Eleanor. So, if I report to my sire, well, that is going to Elysium.
I see. Then perhaps you would like to travel with John here to meet his sire, and we can all regroup at in your domain.
In confidence to you all, and I hope that my trust is well placed.
Let me stop you really quick. I don't know what you're gonna say, but let me make sure. Let me check something. Look at your character sheet really quick, actually. Okay, let me, yeah.
It is fair to say, and as mentioned, I hope this is in confidence well placed. I do not know the Lady Eleanor all that well. The passing of my sire was a shock to everyone. I personally, my embrace was not something I sought out in the way it happened. I have come to grips with. I do not think Lady Eleanor is quite on at that point yet. Reporting to her with the passing of more people in her bloodline may perhaps not be the most pleasing thing for her to hear, and the repercussions may well land squarely on my head. I am not sure that it can be avoided, but perhaps addressing it this directly is not good. I would rather that it's handled through a third party, perhaps. So if we could gain the assistance of your sire, Lady Ruby Pierce, that would be most pleasing to me. And she kind of smiles.
Well, as I indicated, I intend to make a report to her. Whether she will be pleased or lend any assistance, I cannot say. her lessons can be quite impactful at times. But tarrying here is getting nothing done, and we've probably seen the last of Grey Rat as it is. So, unless there's something further to discuss, shall we proceed?
Gladly. Galford looks with disdain at his surroundings.
Alright, then Johnson is set off towards the south, towards London. And as we are walking, I'll just position myself such that I can speak to Deborah. Is there anything that you need before we can access your domain? Or or have we forgone that portion of your input?
Well, I would need to talk with my Adonis. So it will probably be best if I go a street or two ahead of us, so I can contact him and make sure that the back door is open, and then we can all file into a basement, and he can make sure that we are not disturbed there.
That will not be necessary, if you please. And then I'll provide an address. I'm going to offer. I just don't know the address, but I'm going to provide an address that's approximately a couple blocks away in a convenient little nook that we can meet up near Ruby's, where I intend to try to report to Ruby, and suggest that we meet there at 3:30 in the morning.
One fair warning. Although I invite you to my domain as guests, I request that you do not feed there.
Of course, it is your domain.
I do not know the local customs very well yet. I have lived abroad for many years, and I'm still getting used to the finesse of things. And again, she speaks with a slight accent. Since she has nothing to hide at the moment, she will not really disguise it.
And if you haven't already realized that she has something of a... I wouldn't say it's a Jewish accent, but it's... You definitely get the impression that's her original heritage.
Yeah, that's correct. If anyone were to address it correctly, she would, admit to it quite fairly.
Okay.
So for people not familiar with the real life history, being a Jew in England is just about a death sentence. Not quite literally, but it's not an easy life.
Better than being a Moor.
Marginally.
Right.
Of course, that's the other aspect, since she lived in Alexandria in Egypt for quite a few years.
Then, as we proceed into London, whenever you depart for your, basically when you go and make sure your back door is figured out and everybody's all set, that's gonna go with you, then I will take my leave and depart. But okay. I won't ditch everybody until you're all set. Or, I mean, if you guys don't want to go with her, I don't care, but I won't just abandon people in the street.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out where a good neighborhood will be, but it's actually quite hard to get info on, that kind of thing in medieval London.
Yeah.
So are you kind of hanging around chatting, or are you doing this like a walk and talk?
This was a walk and talk thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have miles to cover.
I don't know if we have miles, but there's a swamp like just north of London. The moor.
So we're coming to the 4-hour mark of our game time, of our allotted game time. I think this is actually not too bad of a transition period. I think I'm going to have a stop here, and we can pick up next week.
All right, cool, man.